the lottery is not the canon event you think it is. The real canon event is what happens in the next 5 years. Because we have seen some winners do the dumbest things and go broke in 2 years, and then some smart ones who shocked us with their clever tactics. So today, let's take a look at the dumbest mistakes and the smartest decisions lottery winners have ever made. Number 14. Empty card. Winning the lottery is life-changing, unless you manage to mess it up before you even get your hands on the money. Rachel and Liam thought they had struck gold in May 2022 when their lucky numbers came up. They realized that they had won $231 million. Their excitement was off the charts. They even got a notification from the lottery app confirming their win. But then they realized their dumb mistake. When they rushed to claim their prize, they got the worst news possible that the ticket was not actually valid. Do you know why? Because Rachel's account didn't have enough money to cover the $1 ticket fee. Yes, that's right. They had just lost over $200 million because they were short by a few bucks. And to make things worse, the app never even told them the payment failed. So while they thought they were about to live out their wildest dreams, reality hit them like a brick wall. Rumor is the couple broke up after that. Unlike Rachel and Liam, this next smart winner never left his lottery winnings to chance. In fact, he didn't even rely on luck. He relied on math. Number 13. The clever planner. Stefan Mandel was an economist who figured out something genius. Some lotteries had jackpots bigger than the total cost of buying every possible ticket combination. That meant if someone bought every ticket, they would guarantee a win. Not just the jackpot, but a bunch of smaller prizes too. Now, most people would not even think about attempting this, but Mandel actually pulled it off. In 1992, he and his team bought every single ticket for the Virginia lottery, all 5.5 million combinations. And to their surprise, it worked. They walked away with the $27 million jackpot, plus hundreds of smaller winnings. Of course, lottery officials were not happy. They could not exactly call it cheating. After all, he played by the rules. But they did change those rules immediately after, making sure no one could ever do it again. So while some people lose everything over a $3 mistake, others, like Mandel, make sure they never lose at all. Number 12. The lazy couple. Next, we have a story of a lazy couple. Martin and Kay had one job: check their lottery ticket. But they didn't. And that mistake cost them £3 million or $3.87 million US. Every week, they played the same numbers, and in 2001, those numbers actually hit the jackpot. But instead of realizing that they had just won a fortune, they went on with their daily lives. They were completely unaware. 6 months passed, and the National Lottery started publicly searching for the missing winner. News articles, TV announcements, they were practically begging someone to claim the money. Only then did Martin and Kay finally recognize their numbers. That's when they started panicking. They searched everywhere: kitchen drawers, coat pockets, under the sofa. But the ticket was gone. Their last hope was getting a store receipt to prove they had bought a ticket for that draw. So they went to the lottery office, thinking maybe, just maybe, they could still get the money. But rules are rules. If you have no physical ticket, you win no jackpot. Their claim was denied. The couple was basically robbed of their dream life. They lost millions because they just didn't check their numbers. A little effort could have changed their lives, but instead they walked away with nothing. Well, they ignored their fortune into oblivion. The next guy watched every number closely and used them to win over and over again. Number 11. The loophole. This is the story of Voltaire, who is not just a famous writer, but a master strategist as well. And in 1729, he pulled off one of the smartest lottery wins in history. At the time, France was trying to raise money through a national lottery. But whoever set up the system made a huge mistake. The way the prizes were calculated left a loophole, meaning certain tickets had a much higher chance of winning. Most people didn't notice, but Voltaire did. Instead of keeping it to himself, he teamed up with a mathematician and a small group of investors. They bought up the best tickets to make sure they won again and again. This was not just a lucky streak. They had a calculated plan, and it worked. Over time, they won millions of dollars. Eventually, lottery officials caught on. They investigated, trying to figure out how Voltaire and his group kept winning. But there was nothing illegal about it. They hadn't cheated, they had just understood the game better than anyone else. So while Martin and Kay let their jackpot disappear, Voltaire made sure he never missed a chance to win. Number 10. The Thrown Away Fortune. We all dream of winning the lottery, but it was Eric and Salvatore, some of the luckiest people out there, who actually did win, but they didn't even realize it. The two roommates always played the lottery together. One day, they sat down to check their ticket. Eric read out the winning numbers while Salvatore held the ticket. And just like every other time, the numbers did not match. Disappointed by this, Salvatore did what most people would do. He tossed the ticket in the trash. But was it the end of the story? Not really. The problem was Eric checked the numbers too early. The lottery website had not been updated yet. Their ticket was actually a $1 million winner, but it was already sitting in a landfill. The realization hit them way too late. They were desperate, so they thought about digging through the dump, maybe even getting a police dog to sniff it out. But let's be real, that ticket was long gone. They did not lose the money because of bad luck. They lost it because they could not wait an extra few minutes. All they had to do was double-check, and they would have been millionaires. But instead, their jackpot ended up with the garbage. Unlike Eric and Salvatore, who lost everything over a rash decision, this next couple played it smart and won every time. Number 9. The Smart Couple. Jerry was a former factory manager, and he had always been good with numbers. One day, he took a look at a lottery game called Windfall and immediately noticed something off. Unlike other lotteries, where the jackpot keeps growing until someone wins, Windfall had a rule that if no one won the top prize, the money rolled down to smaller prizes instead. And that's when Jerry figured it out. If you bought enough tickets, you could guarantee a profit. Instead of wasting time, Jerry tested his theory. He spent a few $1,000s, and to his surprise, it worked. The winnings came in just as he expected. So he told his wife Marge, and they took it to the next level. They started buying tickets in bulk, sometimes spending hundreds of thousands at once. But the more they spent, the more they won. They even brought in friends and family to help. Over 9 years, they made $26 million, all legally. Lottery officials investigated, but Jerry and Marge never broke a single rule, so they got to keep their money. Number 8. Dumb Addict. It is obvious that winning the lottery changes your life, but for Michael Santaniello, it changed in the worst way possible. In 2009, Michael won $1 million from the Massachusetts State Lottery. That's enough money to clear debts, invest, or at least live comfortably. But instead of being smart with it, he let his worst habits take over, and it all spiraled downhill from there. Michael had a gambling addiction. Even with $35,000 a year coming in after taxes, it was not enough for him. Instead of using his winnings wisely, he burned through the money feeding his addiction. And when the cash ran low, he found another way to get more, by scamming his own customers. He ran an oil heating service, and instead of delivering on promised repairs, he took deposits from homeowners and never did the work. What's worse was that a lot of his victims were elderly. Eventually, the law caught up with him. He was charged, had to repay the stolen money, and even served time. $1 million gone, a business ruined, and a reputation destroyed, all because he could not control himself. While Michael wasted his fortune on bad decisions, the next guy used his intelligence to flip the system on its head, and it had casinos shaking. Number 7. Modern-day Robin Hood. Alex was not interested in playing the lottery. He was more interested in breaking the system. He was a mathematician and programmer from St. Petersburg and had a talent for understanding how machines worked. And when he turned his attention to casino slot machines, he found a huge flaw. Slot machines are not truly random. They use something called a pseudo-random number generator, which means if you know the pattern, you can predict when they will pay out. And Alex figured out how to crack it. Instead of gambling blindly, he built a network of agents in different countries. Their job was to walk into casinos, record the spinning patterns of the machines, and send the footage back to him. Using his software, Alex could predict exactly when to hit the button to guarantee a win. Fortunately, it worked. His team made $250,000 a week, pulling money straight from the casinos. But in 2014, some of his agents got caught in the US. Instead of running, Alex thought of a smart way out. He started working for slot machine companies to help them fix their security flaws. So, while Michael lost everything to addiction, Alex found a way to turn his skills into millions and never got punished for it. Number 6. Lost twice. Some people win the lottery because they are lucky, but there are only two people who won the lottery because they were crazy dumb and super unlucky. This is the story of Mark Goodrum and John Ross Watson. In April 2019, these two best friends scored big. They won £4 million in the lottery, which is around $5.1 million US. But instead of celebrating, they quickly ran into a huge problem. The card they used to buy the ticket was not theirs. You see, Mark and John Ross were fresh out of jail and they had no money. But they did have an idea. They decided to steal a debit card and use it to buy lottery tickets. And somehow it actually worked. Their numbers hit and they thought they had just pulled off the ultimate payday. Then reality crashed down. When they went to claim their winnings, the lottery officials had one simple question. They asked them for their bank account so they could transfer them the winnings. That's when Mark made his dumbest move. He admitted he didn't even have a bank account. If they didn't have a bank account, how could they have purchased a lottery ticket with a card? That was all the lottery needed to hear. They investigated, found out the card was stolen, and immediately denied their claim. They had millions in their hands and lost it because they could not even use their own money to buy a ticket. Well, these two stole their way into the lottery and ended up with nothing. The next winner earned every penny and made sure to keep it. Number 5, the right decision. Back in 2005, Brad was just a 33-year-old fitness instructor when he walked into a gas station and bought a Powerball ticket. A few days later, he realized he had won a $220 million jackpot. Unlike most people who would immediately go on a spending spree, Brad had a plan. First, he did not tell anyone except his dad. Then, he assembled a team of financial advisors, lawyers, and investment experts to figure out the smartest way to grow his money. Instead of blowing millions on cars and parties, he invested carefully. He put his money into real estate, stocks, and businesses. And within a decade, his wealth had grown by $100 million. By 2016, Brad became a billionaire. While Mark and John Ross threw away their shot, Brad turned his into something even bigger. Just like Brad's story, winning the lottery should be a one-way ticket out of financial struggles. But this next winner made some dumb decisions that brought her more problems. Number 4. Old habit. In 2012, Amanda Clayton won $735,000 in Michigan's Make Me Rich lottery. After taxes, she had a solid lump sum to work with. That should have been the end of her money problems. But nope, instead of moving forward, Amanda kept doing what she had always done, collecting government assistance. So what happened? Despite having hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, she continued to use food stamps and public health insurance. For 8 months, she received over $5,400 in benefits meant for people who actually needed them. When she was finally caught, her excuse was almost as bad as the crime itself. She claimed she thought it was totally fine because she was still unemployed. The law did not agree with her, of course. She was charged with fraud, forced to pay back the money, and became a national embarrassment overnight. Instead of making smart choices with her winnings, Amanda held on to bad habits and they cost her everything. While she abused the system, the next guy worked for every cent he ever made, even after hitting the jackpot. Number 3. The lucky, hard-working American. Before his big win, Jason was juggling 3 jobs. He was pouring concrete, digging wells, and bartending at night. He was barely getting by, struggling to pay bills and on the verge of losing his home. And to top it all off, his second child was on the way. Then, just 3 days before Christmas, his luck finally changed, and Jason won $47 million. But unlike most lottery winners who would go straight to spending, he stayed grounded. At first, he did treat himself. He bought a boat, a Mustang, and a new house. But he didn't blow through his money. Instead, he invested wisely. He bought a golf driving range, which now earns him $300,000 a year. He also got into franchising and opened multiple Batteries Plus stores. Even today, Jason is growing his winnings. While Amanda took advantage of free money, Jason used his fortune to build even more wealth, proving that hard work does not stop, even when you win big. Number 2. The wrong investment. Next, we have another story of a dumb lottery winner. Why were they dumb? Well, winning $3 million from a scratch-off ticket should be a fresh start, right? You can buy a house, a solid investment, and maybe even early retirement. But Ronnie Music Jr. had other plans, and terrible ones. Instead of doing something smart with his money, he decided to fund a drug empire. Yes, his big idea was to invest in meth. He thought if he put his lottery winnings into drug trafficking, he could flip his money into even bigger profits. For a while, it worked. He had a whole operation moving drugs across multiple states, and the cash kept piling up. But drug money does not stay hidden forever. The authorities eventually caught on and started watching him closely. In 2016, his whole world fell apart. He was arrested with 4 pounds of meth and $22,000 in cash. On top of that, he was caught with firearms, which was a huge problem since he was already a convicted felon. So instead of living comfortably off his millions, he landed in prison. He had everything handed to him and he threw it all away for a bad gamble that was never going to end well. While Ronnie burned through his winnings on crime, the next couple made every right move and turned their lottery win into a lifetime of stability. Number 1. A series of smart decisions. This is the story of Elaine and Derek Thompson. When they won £3.42 million, they did not go out and spend it all on expensive cars, big vacations, or pointless luxuries. They took their time, thought about their future, and made smart choices. Elaine did not even quit her job at Marks & Spencer. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to keep her routine. Meanwhile, Derek stayed at Motorola, working like nothing had changed. Instead of wasting their money, they invested it. They bought a holiday cottage resort in Dorset and turned it into a steady business. They also followed their passion for horse racing, making it part of their life rather than a reckless expense. But they did not just keep everything for themselves, they gave back. They helped their family, donated, and even organized trips to Lapland for kids. Decades later, they still have their wealth, all because they made smart, steady choices, the complete opposite of what Ronnie did. If you want to win big and keep it, you need to know how the lottery really works. So watch our next video to learn everything about Mega Millions and be the next lucky person to become a millionaire.